Hey everybody, this episode of Word Balloon is brought to you by a new sponsor, Geek Fuel, a great subscription box service that ships out a mystery box each month that has at least $50 worth of value for just $15 plus shipping and handling. Every box has an exclusive t-shirt, a full downloadable game, and 5 to 7 other great geek culture items. Start your subscription today and get a free bonus item worth another $10 in your first box by heading to geekfuel.com/wordballoon. Welcome back to Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. Great show for you today. I got Charles Soule, and man, does he have a lot to talk about. Of course, we're going to be talking about some creator-owned projects, including curse words coming from Image with Charles and our buddy Ryan Browne of God Hates Astronauts. We'll also talk about Letter 44, his Oni Press book that we're getting close to the end of it, and we'll talk about that. And also his extensive work from Marvel, from Star Wars Poe Dameron to also his work on the Inhumans, Inhumans Vs X-Men, IVX, coming up after the Death of X miniseries wraps up, and of course his work on Daredevil. It's a great chance for me to catch up on a bunch of Inhuman plot lines that I wasn't aware of. And it's a great overview of what's going on in the world of Charles Soule. Plus, he has a new novel in the works as well. Man, I'm telling you, the bag is full. But Charles delivers with great stories, and it's a pleasure to have him back on Word Balloon today. It's all brought to you by the League of Word Balloon listeners. Thank you, League, for your support through your subscription to Word Balloon through Patreon. If you want to help the show out, you can go to wordballoon.com. and click on the Patreon ad. It will tell you all you need to know if you want to help the show out. Word Balloon is free. It will always be free. But if you want to help the cause, you can go to wordballoon.com and check out the Patreon page right there. Without further ado, let us begin our conversation with Charles Soule. It's a pleasure to have him back on Word Balloon. Man, it has been so long, and I am embarrassed that it's been this long because I like the guy, I like his writing, and I'm very happy to welcome Charles Soule back to Word Balloon. And it's a pleasure, dude. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It is a pleasure to be back. It really has been too long. We see each other at shows all the time, and but we made it happen tonight, which is great. Absolutely.
We did talk last month a little bit because we were on the Marvel telepress conference for Death of X.
Yep, I remember. It was one of those round table things, but this will be better than that, I'm sure. We can talk about all kinds of stuff.
Well, and also, I don't know if I've got your contact stuff here. If you've been on Word Balloon, like, more than floor interviews, I can't remember.
No, I mean, the only other time I was on was I did a kind of a long talk, an hour and a half or something, when I was just getting into Big 2 work. It's when I was writing Swamp Thing, which was my first sort of Marvel DC work at all.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, we were talking about 27 back then, Strange Attractors, kind of books that are pretty far in my rear view at this point. It's funny.
Yeah, and Letter 44 was just getting started. Jesus Christ.
That's right.
All right,
yeah,
so we got a laundry list to get through here, man. But first of all, because you are like writing like 8 books right now currently or whatever.
Yeah,
almost.
Yeah.
And do you, I know you're a lawyer. Like, do you still do law full time?
I don't do it full time. One of the things that's really changed between the last time we spoke and now is that I've been able to. The writing work has really ramped up. There's a lot of it. It's fantastic, but it's also given me a sense of security that I'm going to continue to be doing it. When we spoke last time, like, for all I knew, I was going to be kicked off Swamp Thing in 3 issues or 5 or whatever, and so you don't want to fold your law practice at that point. But now, I mean, I've written some pretty high profile books. I'm a contract guy at Marvel. I've got other stuff in the other irons in the fire. Like so. I'm sort of rolling the dice on making sure that I can continue to have a writing career forever, and so I still practice, but I've really scaled it way back. Like I shut my office, I let my people go, which was kind of sad.
Wow.
So I still take cases, but I'm very, very selective about it, and I would say the majority of my time now is spent writing, unless it's a case that I really want to do, or it's for a longtime client or a friend. I generally just turn business away at this point, which is a very weird feeling.
What was the nature of your practice?
I did immigration work primarily, so it was immigration. Yeah, a lot of immigration. And so,
dude, we need you now more than ever. It sounds like
I know,
with the pending administration.
I know, it's funny. I've been getting a lot of calls since last week about people who want to know what the future holds, and I don't know, but I guess we'll all find out together, for better or for worse.
I hear you, man. Well, and it's weird too, because we live in cities where our mayors have stepped up and said, "Yeah, listen, don't worry, we're still a safe zone," and that's kind of interesting. Well, anyway, and I'm sure that I have a feeling that politics will probably come into play in some cases, depending on what we're talking about, while we're talking here. But
sure.
Also, did you just make a big trip? Are you back from China?
Yep, I got back from China. Today is Tuesday, I guess, Tuesday, yes. And I was in China all last week. I got back late set, early Sunday morning, super early Sunday morning.
Crazy.
So I was overseas during all the election stuff, which was strange. And there was a lot going on sort of professionally. I had to be on a million calls, and that's a 13-hour time difference. So I was I'd be up at 2 a.m. on these calls. It was a great trip. I loved it, but I'm happy to be home for sure.
I understand. Okay, you can't talk about why you were there?
I was there I was there for there was a convention in Shanghai, Shanghai Comic-Con, and
I didn't realize that.
Out.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow, what was that like?
It was very cool. I mean, China is very, very enthusiastic about the movie versions of all these characters.
Yes.
So they all know exactly who Captain America is. They know who Wolverine is. They know all of that stuff. They know who Daredevil is because of the Netflix show. But as far as the comic book iterations, they're not as familiar because it's really hard to get comics there. As far as I could tell, there's exactly one comic shop in Beijing. It's a very cool little store called Polyphony. It's beautifully designed, but it seemed like they almost were flying to another country, buying books and flying them back to stock them in their store. They couldn't really, there's no diamond account or anything like that. And then there are 2 shops in Hong Kong, which is it's not even mainland China. It's kind of a different administrative system. And so people were telling me they were flying up to Hong Kong every week or every other weeks to get their books. So they can get Comixology sort of, but it's the point I'm getting at is that it's hard for people in China to read comics the way that we read comics here.
Sure.
But there were still some very enthusiastic fans, which was just amazing. So it was cool. It was not a gigantic show, but it was a very cool show. And I'm super glad that I was there, and had the opportunity to go to China, which is a place that I love. I've been there a number of times.
Wow.
Yeah, it's good. But the thing that was, the phone calls were for, was that I had my first novel.
Yes, I was going to ask. Go on, please. Congratulations. That's fantastic, man.
That was sort of all of the talks with the my agent, the editors, and all of the other stuff was kind of happening while I was there. So
crazy.
It was pretty wild. So I was talking to people in LA, people in New York, and I was in Shanghai and Beijing. So lots of time differences, which sounds very glamorous and jet city and all that stuff, but really what it meant was that I was always awake and always trying to be on top of these phone calls, and I was just exhausted constantly. But it was for the best possible reason, and so this book is The Oracle Year. It's going to come out from HarperCollins. It's about a guy who can he gets basically 108 little glimpses of the future, these discrete little events, and then it's what he decides to do with them, and how that changes himself and the world. So it's very cool. I've wanted to get a novel out for a long time, so I'm really excited about it, and I hope all of my comic reader fans will read my novel too. I guess we'll see.
Hell yeah, dude. Well, when it's ready to be publicized and stuff, of course you're welcome back, and we'll talk more about it. This is great, man. You're joining the pantheon, man. I like it. You're there with the Ruckers and the Meltzers, and
yeah,
that's outstanding. That's fantastic. Good for you, dude. Congratulations.
Thank you. It feels really good, I have to say.
Absolutely, man. Huge. Very, very cool. Wow. All right. Well, let's get down to the comics. I'm talking to Brownie, your collaborator on Curse Words, tomorrow.
Awesome.
And depending on the length of our conversations, they could be together. But
okay.
Curse Words comes out in January from Image. And what can you tell us? You guys were kind enough to send me the first issue, but I'll let you dictate the parameters of our talk.
Sure. Well, honestly, this is the first new creator-owned book I've done since Letter 44 started. And Letter 44 started Like the first issue came out in early 2013, I think.
Yes.
This is coming out early 2017, so it's 4 years of not having a new creator-owned project out. So I really am putting all of that, sort of all of the skills that I've learned from doing work for hire work for so long, all of the weird ideas that I can't really do in say Daredevil or whatever, they're all going into curse words. And the premise of the book is it's about a wizard. A random wizard pops up one day in Central Park in New York, starts casting spells for money. Everybody's very excited because we've never had a wizard before, so this is kind of amazing. He becomes very rich, very famous. The problem is that he is actually an evil wizard in a good wizard disguise. He has a very dark past, and as the book continues, that past starts to catch up with him. And so it's sort of, is he going to be a good guy? Is he going to be a bad guy? Lots of moral questions and things, but it's also really, really funny, which is what you'd expect with Ryan Browne involved. So
Talking animals.
All of the Ryan Browne trademarks are there.
That's cool. That's cool. And obviously that, clearly that's why you chose Brownie as a collaborator, because of, things like God Hates Astronauts and Burn Furnace and, Blast Furnace, excuse me.
Blast Furnace, yeah. It is that, but it's also like he and I really like each other, which is a really
surprised. Go ahead.
A really nice thing in when you're working with somebody as close as you need to do on a creator-owned book. And we kind of have vaguely similar backgrounds. We both have Michigan backgrounds, and we've just known each other for a long time in the comics world. And I've always loved his books, and I guess he's liked mine well enough to commit to doing something with me. But he, like early on in our friendship, we would like just be out at a bar, out at the dinner room, and just start riffing on some concept or other, like kind of like like Would You Rather, like just stupid things, and we would just start telling a story back and forth, and it was always dumb, but it was super fun, and that is sort of where Curse Words is on a much higher level that takes a lot longer to put together, and we're being much more precise about. But it's really just the two of us throwing ideas back and forth, having a really good time. And I think when you read it, I mean, I don't know, you tell me, you read it, but I think it feels like two guys having a blast, really trying to perform at the top of their games. So I hope that's how the readers see it.
It did read that way, and also I know Ryan a little bit better than I know you, but it's great because it's atypical of your other stuff, and it's because Ryan is co-writing the book with you. And after New York, not to the point where I think a Charles Soule fan wouldn't enjoy it, but I'm just saying that I think both of your influences are clearly there. But it was we talked Brownie and I talked a little bit in New York, and then we ended up being on the same flight home, and even splitting the cab from O'Hare back to the city and everything. And we really talked a lot about it. And I've had Ryan on a few times before. He's just a really smart guy, and as you say, one of the nicest and friendliest guys in the business. And I always love hanging with him, and I can understand your wanting to work with him because, he is that kind of guy. And also, he's one of the smartest, I think, creator-owned guys in the biz. And I love being a fly on the wall at conventions and watching him kind of like talk to other creators about their stuff and telling them, well, this is what you need to know about whether it's crowdfunding or working with a publisher like Image or whatever. I mean, he really, I think, has all these kind of moves down from a business standpoint. And I really think, I mean, beyond the fact that he's a really great artist, and I like that he's, stepping up even more and co-writing with you and everything, or at the very least co-plotting with you.
Yeah, it's very much a collaborative effort. We go into it with the, it's our book. It's not one or the other. We're very much a team. And it's great. It's just like, there are guys that I would probably, there are people who maybe you wouldn't necessarily, great artists who maybe aren't as great, sort of word storytellers. Writers is the word I guess I'm looking for. Jeez, look at me. I'm a good word storyteller. God. You know what I mean? Like
I do. It's the end of the day, man. Our brains are mush right now. It's all right.
But it's like each guy has their set of responsibilities. They execute them really well, and the book works really well together. But this feels more like it is really a synthesis. We're both writing stuff. We're both creating the story at the same time, and there's never any real barrier between, if I see something in the art, or the door's open, and vice versa. Like, it's very much a two-way street. So it's just fun. The main thing is I just really, it's a little nerve-wracking to come back into creator-owned after this long out, And I know the book is great. Image is really behind it, which is fantastic. I have relationships with shops. I've done everything I can to try and make sure that it's cool and people like it. But you never know. I mean, you never know how it's going to be received. And so my fingers are crossed firmly right now that people dig it.
Well, and I guess I can understand that from a personal standpoint. We all have our own self-doubts. But, I mean, like you said, man, for the last 4 years, you've really established yourself at both companies, writing really good books and big books. And we're going to get into, your mainstream stuff in a minute. But, So what do you think right now, because you're really at the start of it and stuff, but as you said, you feel like, when you started Letter 44 3 years ago, almost 4 years ago, what little things have you learned from the big two that you wanted to put into, I mean, can you quantify some of the stuff you've learned that has changed the way that you've been writing?
Well, I'd say one thing for sure is I can see into the future more easily as far as arc plotting and planning and and knowing and feeling the beats. I mean, I was adding up the pages I've had published kind of since the rush, since everything kind of really, really picked up around, which was, it was more like 2013 is when everything, because by the end of that year I was on 3 books, 2 books for DC, a book for Marvel. It all kind of really started to happen in 2014. But since that time...
Was that like She-Hulk time and everything too?
Yeah, She-Hulk started in early 2014.
Okay, go on.
So, anyway, it I guess it was really all... And, it doesn't matter. The point is that I've had like 5,000 plus pages of comics published since Swamp Thing. And so, it was kind of... I couldn't really believe it either. But then when you do it that much, when it's like all you do and almost all you think about, you really get a sense of exactly the way to pace an issue, exactly the way to pace an arc. And I think that skill set is something that really just comes, do I need this scene? Do I need to describe this beat, or can I do it in a panel? Can I do it just in a line of dialogue? Those kind of shortcuts are the sort of things that I've been able to get. And kind of knowing what an artist is capable of on the page, what a comics page can do and what it can't do. Okay. Giving the artist, not overloading an issue so much that the artist can't really do it in a reasonable way. So if you have a couple crowd scenes, making sure that you have some really light stuff, like a 2-panel page early on, things like that, just sort of balance stuff. So it's just, getting good at making comics, getting good at all the different pieces of it in a way that I don't think I was bad at it necessarily in 2012, but it's just a whole different world now. The skill set you have.
I got you. Well, and it seems, Ryan is an off-the-wall writer when it comes to Blast Furnace, and Blast Furnace itself was really kind of an exercise, and it is an unconventional book. God Hates Astronauts was is a very unconventional book when Ryan gets back to it and stuff like that. So. There's a randomness obviously with a lead character being a wizard, but as you say, you've got kind of story arcs and ideas kind of tightly plotted. Is that, would you say that Ryan is kind of coming with the off the wall stuff, or and again, you've got off the wall ideas, I'm sure too.
I do, but I would say the way that we do it is, I give Ryan a lot of room to put stuff in that, especially sort of scene setting and background elements and the expressions on people's faces, and he's able to spin scenes in directions that I wouldn't necessarily see, and then when I see it, I can adjust the dialogue to fit what he's done. So that I know how good he is at that sort of thing. Like there's a scene in issue 2 that's basically, I think I gave him one sentence, I want sort of, we're going into this fantasy world, I just want a massive, awesome landscape. Do whatever you want. And then I know that it's I don't have to worry about it. I know it's going to be great. And it was great. There's a big drunk frog. There's a lot of great things in that page. But that's Ryan. He can really, really just, it's, we've talked about a lot. We don't have to worry about each other as collaborators. There's never any sense of, oh, he's going to do something stupid or I'm going to do something. We can both hold up our ends in a really kind of relaxing way. It's just really, it's been really great.
I gotta tell you, man, again, from that cab ride, that's pretty much how he described the collaboration. He said it's easy, you both know where you're coming from, and it's a great exchange of ideas and sharing the work and everything. So that's great to hear, man. That's wonderful, and that's obviously makes it easier for you guys to just get the shit done. So
Yep.
Very cool. Now, so 5-issue arcs. How do you see this kind of?
Yeah. Well, the first arc is 5. We kind of have it set for probably about 25 issues or so.
Okay.
Depending on the response, and so probably like five trades, something along those lines. We'll do, the idea is to do a hardcover here and there, collecting some bigger stuff and so on. But if we're having a really, really good time with it, and if it does well the way we hope it does, then it's sort of where the story takes us. We don't necessarily see any reason to cut it too short or make it too long. So, but we have the whole thing more or less plotted out. There's a lot of room for us to both kind of do our thing and make it. If ideas come to us, all that, we'll do it. But it's mostly just it's really fun. It's really, really fun, and I think that fun comes across in the book. And choosing magic as a main subject lets us do. We're completely free in terms of story stuff. We can do whatever we want, and that was kind of a conscious choice from the start to let us both shine as far as imagination and bringing all these weird things into it. And but yet it's still very grounded. I mean, you still know exactly who this guy is. It's not like random stuff all over the place. Like there's a character with a strong central arc, and you understand his conflicts and what he's trying to do and who he was to a degree, and it's all sort of there. There's like a real story, but it's also anything can happen at any time, which is a fun way to do a book.
Is this a chance, too, to maybe talk more about today's society, more so than, you might be able to in some of the other books that you've worked on? I mean, I don't want to give away plot points or anything like that, but a pop star kind of meets the wizard and has a very specific want in that opening scene. So is this a chance to kind of, poke fun at some of, society's tropes right now?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's set in the present day, and the way that the world it's a book that in some ways is about celebrity because, Wizard is the name of the wizard, and so Wizard becomes very famous very quickly, and he likes it and he doesn't want to give it up, and so he makes choices based on retaining fame and adoration, and even when they're probably not the best decisions to make. And there's a sense of reinvention in America that is, I think, a very real thing that you can, particularly once you start to get famous, you can just have a completely new persona, and America forgives that and embraces it to a degree, to the extent that the new persona becomes more real than anything you were before. Even when those things are sort of exposed, it doesn't take away from whoever you've decided to be in the new phase. And that's a big theme in this book, kind of your past and how you get past it. All of that stuff. It's very, like I said before, there's a lot going on in the book. On the surface, it's a fun, weird wizard book with the talking koala and, magic battles and stuff. But it's a story about real people too. So, it's really coming together well.
I like the play on words for the title, curse words, but I have to be honest, much like I Hate Fairyland and its, more famous dirty title and stuff like that, I was disappointed with the lack of curse words that I saw in it. I was expecting a few more F-bombs in the book. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a, here and there, but we'll put them in when it makes sense. But it's always a balance. If you work too blue, then it loses its shock value, right?
I
want to save
that.
Them. Yep.
Right. Very funny. Very cool. No, excellent, man. No, great start, and looks great. I mean, that's the thing. I think Ryan's got a really pleasant style as far as his art, and hey, man, you're the wordsmith. You're clearly pleasing the masses with the almost dozen books that you're currently working on. So I understand. Well, let's pivot and move into the mainstream for a second. Well, actually, while we're in the creator-owned realm, let's talk Letter 44 because does the current change in the administration make you want to? I mean, where are you in the story? I mean, first of all, for people who don't know, explain Letter 44 from Oni Press. Great premise. Excellent idea.
So the story of Letter 44 is a U.S. president gets elected, and on his very first day, the day after inauguration, when he goes into the Oval Office, he reads the secret letter from the previous president that has all kinds of tips and tricks in it. The knowledge he's going to need to know as he goes into the job. And that letter says, "Hey man, good luck. Being president's a huge pain in the ass. It's a very hard job, and it's going to be especially hard for you because we found aliens in the asteroid belt 7 years ago and didn't tell anybody. So, surprise.
Get ready, because they're coming.
That's your problem now. Good luck. And so the idea is that there's been a lot of preparation done before that point by the previous president, but now the new guy has to figure out what the hell he's going to do. If he's going to stay along the path the previous guy set, he's going to do something different. And at the same time, one of the things that the previous president did was he sent up a manned mission to make contact with these aliens up there, because all we know is they're building something. We don't know what it is, why they're here, any of that. So the story has two tracks, and one is the president down on Earth trying to figure this out, and then the other is about the astronauts in space. They've been in space for like 3 years. They're kind of all psychologically weird at this point. They're all kind of half crazy, and it's them in a first contact situation. So I tell people it's like, West Wing meets Alien or House of Cards in space. It was fun to. I brought some copies of it with me to China, and it was fun to try and explain this in Chinese to people. And I speak some Chinese, but I don't have enough to like. I couldn't give the pitch I just gave you to a Chinese person, so my translator was doing most of it. But I did a little, and so I learned the Chinese word for president, which is zongtong, which I think is a pretty great word. Megawal de zongtong. Zongtong.
Zongtong. Yeah, okay.
Zongtong, yeah. Wow. So it's Megawal de zongtong is American president. So anyway.
Well, that transition of power at certain historical points have been very interesting. I didn't mean to interrupt you because
no.
Forget it. I mean, certainly right now we're all very cognizant of the sit down that Trump and Obama just had. But you think about Roosevelt dying and Truman taking office, and it's the president's dead. By the way, and they open up the book. There's a little something we got on the drawing board called Project Manhattan, and the whole time Harry Truman had no idea that we're developing the atomic bomb and we're thinking about dropping it on Japan. So there's that, and you can and then you get the real. It really was great, I think, to see the enormity that Trump was given clearly, because you saw him after that meeting, and then and again we're talking 2 nights after Trump made his first interview on 60 Minutes, and honestly, I saw a change. I mean, there was a slight lack of arrogance about the enormity of the job that he just received, and it's just like it's bigger than even he thought, and I kind of liked that, because he should take it seriously, and so it is those kinds of little things that were those the things that inspired this? Obviously not Trump, but those kind of big moments where there really is this big change. Carter and Reagan was a big transition. Yep. And I've seen Jimmy Carter talk about that first meeting with Ronald Reagan, and it was the same thing where Ronald Reagan came in kind of just like, all right, we're going to have a chat. And Carter's got like several legal pads of, you got to know this, you got to know this. And he's like, well, he goes, there's a lot of stuff here. And he goes, well, I'll be fine. And then about, 10 minutes into the thing, he's like, can I have a copy of those notes? And it's like, yeah, no problem, man.
Yeah. I mean, I studying presidents and presidential history has always been a thing for me. I've always thought it was fascinating, particularly like the personalities that want to be president are, it's a very interesting, almost a pathology in my mind.
Agreed.
Like somebody who would actually want that job. And so I do think it's one thing to want it and to sort of be like, oh, I'll be great at it. I'm smart. I'm committed, all these things. And then you get in there and you're like, oh my God, like I don't get to, for the next 4 years minimum, the weight of the world is literally on my shoulders. Yeah. And there's a reason presidents age 8 years for every 4 when they're in office. So, I mean, I don't know. It always seemed I think it hits hard even when there aren't alien spacecraft involved. And writing a book about it it's been really rewarding. I mean, the series has the 4th collection, the 4th volume is going to be out in January, right around the inauguration, which is crazy. And it's been amazing to see it embraced by people. Like people who like this series love it. And it was an official selection at Angle M this past January.
Congratulations, that's great, man.
Yeah, it was amazing. It won the Grand Prix at another French festival named Palavas. So it's very big in France and Spain, which is awesome. Cool. And it does well here too. But it's the first really long form thing that I've attempted. And with the artist Alberto Jimenez Albuquerque, it'll be 35 issues when all said and done, which these days is really a long run on a series. The last issue that came out was 28. I've written through 31. I'm going to write 32 this week, actually. And then it's going to go to 35 and it's finished. And that was always the plan.
Okay.
So that's the story we're telling. And I have the whole thing broken. I know everything that happens. I could sit here and tell you the end, but I'm kind of, I'm not going to, but I'm kind of holding off on writing it though, because it's bittersweet to come to the end of this thing. And, after living with it it'll be 4 years when all said and done, and saying goodbye to it will be very interesting and strange.
Well, I'll confess, I'm not sure. Has there been a transition of power in the book? Have you dealt with only one president?
Only one.
Okay.
Only one.
Does the prospect of, as we're seeing, the possible change, does it make you think, it would be interesting to kind of hand this off to the next president as well? I mean, obviously, then it would become letter 45, I suppose.
Yeah, it would be. Those are questions that I can't end the series without talking about that. So it's not going to happen necessarily in the way you might expect, but that's something that I have to address.
Okay.
So yeah, it's kind of it's a big, huge ending that I think that readers of the series will be satisfied with, surprised by, but that's kind of what the series has always been. Like it's full of twists and turns, but it always kind of leaves you hopefully wanting, satisfied but wanting more. And I don't know how I've never, I think about some of the big endings to series, like, Preacher or Why the Last Man or Sandman, all of which are very, very formative series for me in my reading history, development. And I think about the way they ended their big long runs, and there were, some I think were more effective than others, but they had this. Usually, they tend to have this sort of beautiful finality to them. Like there's this beautiful poetic quality to what they choose to do, and I think that Letter 44 in its way will hopefully, I'm not saying Letter 44 is as good as Preacher or Sandman or whatever, but I'm going to try to write an ending that will make me feel at least partially as good as I felt when I read those other endings. So we'll see.
Excellent.
It's hard.
Man. No, I can appreciate that. That's great, man. Very, very cool. And again, that's from Oni Press, Letter 44. So, and I'm sure people are, sort of aware of it, but they should definitely catch up and look forward to this wrap up coming up very soon. So, very interesting. Now, let's now we'll move on to the mainstream and talk about all your work in Marvel. So now, catch me up on the Inhumans. I'm aware of certainly what happened in Secret War or Wars. I always forget I guess it was Secret Wars. The Terrigen Mists have kind of enveloped Earth, and we've got new Inhumans suddenly appearing, and as a consequence too, the Terrigen Mists were poisonous to mutants, so mutants have had to go off world. And correct me if anything I just said is not correct as far as the broad strokes go. Yeah,
that's right. The the idea is that there's a series going right now called Death of X, which is set. It's set a little bit in the past, about 8 months ago, right when the mutants discovered that this Terrigen cloud traveling around the world is toxic to them.
And this is right at the end of Secret Wars, I'm assuming.
Right at the end of Secret Wars. So it's about 8 months ago in Marvel time. And so you had Cyclops, you had Emma Frost, you had a bunch of other mutants kind of figuring out what the hell they're going to do. And Cyclops, being the kind of reactionary, freedom fighter mutant that he's been recently, decides that he's going to take action and just destroy these clouds. And so the thing that we know is that Cyclops has not been seen since those events in the regular Marvel universe. So this is the first time we're getting a chance to see what the hell happened and where he went and why he hasn't been around.
Is he presumed dead? Or
Yep, he is. He's presumed dead. And so it's about, 3 issues have come out so far. Issue 4 is out. I don't think it's this week. I think it's next week or very soon.
Okay.
And then you'll get to find out where Cyclops is and what happened to him and all that stuff. So it's very I don't know why I keep getting associated with Dead X-Men, but apparently that is my X-Men brand.
That's true. You killed Wolverine.
Yeah, Wolverine and now Cyclops, and so and Jamie Madrox dies in the first issue of Death of X. So there's a bunch of Dead X-Men. I'm leaving them in my wake like a trail. Yeah, it's bad. But the truth is, I'm co-writing with Jeff Lemire. The artist is Aaron Cooter with Javier Garron helping, and it's amazing stuff. They're doing everything looks beautiful. I love it. And it's neat to write. This sort of goes back to what we're just talking about with Letter 44. Like, it's really great to write endings. I love being able to write endings because you can encapsulate the life of a character in their death in a way, or their ending in a way. And so for me, it's it's great. And it's funny because I've talked about my philosophy about killing superheroes before. And this was just before Death of X1 came out, in which Madrox dies, who's a very beloved character. Madrox is kind of, he's not Xavier or Phoenix or Wolverine. He's not at that level, but he's just below it, I would think. And he's sort of,
Peter David certainly had a nice healthy run, kind of.
Oh my God, yeah,
expanding and exploring his character and everything. Sure.
Yep, and in this series, he dies in sort of a relatively quick way. Like, and it's very, I think it's very impactful because you don't see it coming. And when he goes, it's in part because he's, through his death, we could show the death of many, many mutants, because you only need to essentially kill one guy and you're killing a bunch. So there are a lot of reasons why we chose him, but I got a bunch of, I heard a lot on Twitter and social media from X-Men fans who really liked him, and I get it. I mean, I sort of feel the same way, but the stories are the stories, and it's sort of, that's the story we chose to tell here. So I'll take all the lumps people want to throw at me for that, but I think it made the stakes of the story very high from the very start. But yeah, so anyway, so that's Death of X, which is happening now. It's finishing soon, but then the idea is that after whatever happens, then the X-Men and the Inhumans go into this period of truce or détente, and that lasts for the full 8 months that we've seen in the storytelling in the Marvel Universe so far, and then something happens to break it, and then they go to sort of all-out war, and that's this event IVX, which is starting in December, I believe, December or January, and again co-written with Jeff Lemire. That one's being drawn by Lineal Yu. It's beautiful. I mean, Lineal is amazing.
You bet.
Yeah, I did a zero issue with Kenneth Rocafort on the art, which is great. But it's there's a zillion billion characters because both the X-Men and the Inhumans have huge casts.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's hard keeping all of that straight and giving everybody, how is Monet different from Warpath? How is Flint different from Medusa? I know all that stuff because I've done my homework and I've studied and I can write everybody, but there's a lot to juggle, a lot to give everybody their moments. And it's sort of peak superhero event storytelling as far as from a writing perspective. But it's also great. Like having the opportunity to do it is amazing. This is my first real big Marvel sort of crossover event kind of situation. So it's fun. It's really a good time.
Will it purely be, when it's IVX, Inhumans and X-Men and no other interference from the other heroes or villains from the universe? Right.
So like Avengers and all that, they're not. Yeah, they
won't be involved.
Yeah, they're not involved. This happens. It takes place over a relatively short period of time. Not a long time. And my guess is that it just sort of all happens very quickly, and the Avengers are busy fighting. I don't know, Mole Man or whoever they're fighting.
Okay.
So this is Inhumans and X-Men, but believe me, if we had to add more characters to this thing, I would lose my mind. So sure. I'm perfectly happy that it's just the million X-Men and the million Inhumans, and they're having a big fight.
When you get to individual characters, it is easy to see the differences. But as a big group versus group, is there still a stripe of the Inhumans that differs them from the mutants? I mean, it seemed like on television and maybe I think a lot of people assume because of the current relationship with Marvel and Fox realizing, hey, we got the X-Men, we're not letting go. This thing's making money for us. That suddenly the Inhumans have almost taken the place of the mutants in terms of their place in the Marvel universe. And so how do you keep the stripes different?
I mean, as a writer, for me, it's very easy. Like, they don't feel alike at all. Like, the Inhumans are a nation state. They have a government. They have a ruler. They have relations with other countries. There's it's a very different feel. It's a geopolitical feel, at least as I've been writing them.
As I see in Daredevil, even because they've basically created their Inhuman nation state right in the middle of Manhattan.
It's like Vatican City.
Yes, and it's under good cooperation between the United States and the human race and everything. Go on.
Absolutely, it's all there. So to me, like, the mutants have had that sort of, Genosha, things along those lines, but they've always been kind of this ragtag guerrilla force, and I think that's when they're at their best. Honestly, it would be weird to see, Magneto going to sit down at the White House, but it's not unusual to think of Medusa doing that, and I think that is they're not of the establishment at all, because they're their own thing, but the fact that they are a nation with 20,000 years of history on the earth and all of this advanced technology and all of these things about them, to me as a writer, they feel completely different just because there's a lot of people with superpowers. I mean, the Avengers have a lot of people with superpowers too. Sure. It's just, I think they're very different. Now, I could see from a fan perspective why you'd be like, well, okay, so this group has a lot of young people getting superpowers and experiencing them for the first time, and this other group does too. They're kind of the same. But from a publishing perspective, I mean, the X-Men, they just announced all the stuff that's happening after IVX, like all of these titles. I totally understand, and I also know that comics fans want to find stuff like this. It's fun and exciting to sort of spitball things like this, but it's just, the X-Men are strong, the Inhumans are strong. There's lots of books for both. You can pick whatever flavor you want, follow the characters you want to follow. I mean,
I hear you, man.
That's it.
No, and also I think, like you just said, from a geopolitical standpoint, you're right. Inhumans, you make the Vatican City concept. I suppose you could say the X-Men are almost like Palestinians.
Yeah, they're outcasts. They're stateless.
Stateless, exactly, and kind of wishing that they could have their own kind of land and stuff. And I get it, and I'm glad you put it that way. I think that's great. Okay, for someone who has been sitting on the sidelines, where's Black Bolt?
Black Bolt right now, he was the king of the Inhumans for a long time. Yes. He was the sort of the silent, stoic king. His power is, if he speaks a word, then this incredibly gigantic blast of cosmic power comes out and annihilates whatever's in front of him. Yep. So most Inhuman stories tend to end with Black Bolt saying one word, like stop, or whatever it is, and then that puts everything to bed. So I wanted to write it, like, when I came on board, one of my big sort of mandates for myself was to not tell that story every time. And so early on in I've been writing Inhumans for like 3 years now, and early on in the run, Medusa's the queen, or right. she doesn't know where Black Bolt is. He's vanished. And so she finds him, sends a detective out to find him, and finds him. It doesn't matter. She finds him, and he comes back, and he's going to be king again. And then she's like, you know what? I've been running this country by myself for months. I've been doing all of these things. When you've been off doing whatever, this isn't yours anymore. And so they basically separate. I mean, they're husband and wife, and they're estranged. So Black Bolt is off. He opened a super cool nightclub underneath Grand Central called the Quiet Room.
That's hilarious. Get out of here.
He's been running that.
That's hilarious. The Quiet Room.
It's like it's kind of like Rick's Cafe in Casablanca, like sort of this meeting.
Go on, yes, go on.
It's like a meeting place where anybody from any affiliation can go and hang out, and it's neutral ground because the idea is that if you start trouble there, Black Bolt will end it. And so, good guys, bad guys, anybody can go to the Quiet Room and just sort of do their thing without any real fear of superhero or supervillain fights breaking out.
That's
and so
fantastic.
It's been this. Yeah, it's been a really fun location that, again, has played into the whole geopolitical role of the Inhumans.
Is there a Quiet Room magazine where Black Bolt is kind of, there should be?
Right. Yeah. It looks kind of like it's all Art Deco and 1920s. It looks like Club Obi-Wan from Indiana Jones: The Temple of Doom.
Sure.
It looks like that.
Hilarious.
There's like acts, women in evening gowns singing on the stage all the time, and it's really been fun. Yes, very softly. Yeah, it's just been a great scene. Yeah,
I have to admit, again, from the outside, I'm like, all right, I'm sure Black Bolt is dead, and that's why Medusa's running things right now and everything. That's fantastic. That's great, man. Shame on me for not knowing that. I love that idea. I really want. Honestly, I got to talk to Axel about getting a Quiet Room magazine. I would want to. Truly, that's no. And like you said, the Casablanca thing. So are we seeing a lot of the Quiet Room? Are there?
Yeah. It's a fairly common. Like, it comes up a lot because the thing is that Medusa and Black Bolt are estranged romantically, and she is the queen, and he's not the king anymore. He's given up his throne, but the idea that you're not going to use this brilliant strategic thinker with the most powerful Inhuman of all in some ways. So he's kind of like the covert guy who will do things on the side to help the Inhuman cause, while she's kind of the public figure, the public face.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah. So they still do stuff together, kind of politically or professionally, I guess you'd say. But Medusa's been dating Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, for a while. So that's also an interesting relationship to play with, because Johnny, Black Bolt never says a word, but Johnny Storm never shuts up, and so it's
well, and also Johnny's relationship with Crystal back in the day.
Oh yeah. There was a whole 2-issue arc where, like, Medusa didn't tell Crystal that this was happening. She kind of gave Crystal this mission on the other side of the world, and she expected to break up with Johnny. She expected it to be a fling, because every relationship with Johnny is always a fling, right?
Yes.
He's not a stable relationship guy, but they kind of started to fall for each other, and so she was like, Johnny, we've got to break this off, and he's like, but we're so good together, and all these things happen, and then they get in, a building falls on them, they're trapped under a building for the whole issue. It's one of those kind of issues, and they kind of work it out. They're starting to make out, and then who saves them from under the fallen building but Crystal, of course. So that's how she finds out. They have this whole hullabaloo in the next issue where they get abducted by this alien who has like a Battle World spaceship, and it's comics. But
good for you.
Yeah, it's the whole soap opera alongside the superhero stuff. So
yeah, man,
it's
great.
all there.
Oh, dude. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm really glad I have Marvel Unlimited, because this is when I can go back and kind of retrace the steps. I don't know if it's on the Marvel Unlimited stuff yet.
Yeah, that should be. It's that's Uncanny Inhuman stuff, so it should be there by now.
Excellent, very cool, dude. I'm really glad to hear that, because I got to be honest. Much like the X-Men, it's been very occasional for me with the Inhumans. But
oh yeah,
I absolutely would dive into kind of stories like that. That's fantastic. That's great. Good for you, man. See, you're giving it to the right guys. This is good.
Yeah,
I like
it's fun.
it. Excellent, man. Wow, very interesting. So yeah, any other like nooks and crannies as far as what's going on with the Inhumans that I could...
The Inhumans, I mean, it's really just the big sort of swirling soap opera stuff, superhero soap opera, and it's the characters are very cool. There's a lot of new ones. There's a detective character I love named Frank McGee, who was a New York cop for 20. He was it was 26 years, and then the Terrigen Mist rolled around. He got powers, and basically his eyes became like spotlights, and so he wears sunglasses all the time. He's kind of like John McClane in Die Hard. He's very rumpled and kind of grumpy.
Sure. Well, I've seen him in Daredevil, and we'll get to Daredevil.
Oh yeah,
yes.
yeah. So that guy, and so he's
love that guy.
Yeah, he's cool. But, his wife divorced him. The Force didn't really know what to do with him, so they kind of, he quit when nobody was giving him the time of day anymore. And he kind of washed up on the Inhumans. And so that's where he's been. And so there's, like, the Inhumans is great because it lets me tell stories with all these different kinds of characters. Like, and so I can, if I want to tell a detective story, some hard-boiled noir thing, I can just use Frank McGee. So...
no, I liked him. I liked it the moment I saw him in Daredevil, man. That's great. And I didn't realize that. I assumed his power was more photo. I mean, I realized that it had like high beam lights, that kind of energy when he takes a look at something. But I also assumed it was more photographic memory kind of thing.
It's both. The fun thing about writing the series is that you get to write people from the start of their powers and then see them grow and learn how to use them better. So when it started, all he could do was be like a flashlight, like a spotlight. He could blast out the light. But then over time, he started to realize that he could use it almost like a camera flash. And so if he looks at a crime scene, he can blast out the light super fast, and then the entire image is stored in his brain, and he can kind of spin it around and look at it again, just like like in Blade Runner when Harrison Ford is doing the zoom in, enhance, all that stuff. So it's like that. So it's a perfect power for a detective to have, and he's been using it that way. So he's a character like I can see writing him for a long time in different ways in different places. Like I could see a series built around him just running a detective. Or like a police bureau kind of thing. So Absolutely. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
That's great, and also I just like how he's so grounded in the real world in terms of him being kind of a career cop that suddenly finds himself with these powers. I can't remember And to be honest, again, I was more on the sidelines, but I can't remember those kinds of characters being developed during the early 2000s when there was that expansion of the mutants. And it just seemed like, every day there were more real world, mutants popping up. A lot of times they were kids.
Yeah.
And maybe that's another good difference about the Terrigen Mist affecting people as opposed to, mutants being born with it, and it kind of being a metaphor for adolescence and that kind of storytelling. So,
yeah.
Would you say that's the case with?
I would. I mean, for me, when I mean, again, I've been writing these things for this line for 3 years, and one of the things that was interesting and exciting to me from the start was the idea that I didn't have to always tell the sort of teen. It doesn't always have to be a young guy, and so there's Frank McGee, who's probably in his late 40s, early 50s. You've got there's an engineer in India who's named Grid, and his power ends up being like he can manipulate electromagnetic fields, but his hands are replaced by these sort of cones of electromagnetic energy, and that's how he's able to do things. And so it's kind of like Chamber, right? Where sort of he gets this power, but it's a terrible power in terms of the way it affects him physically. And on the first day, he's like, he's 35, and so he has this career. He's like been helping his family as an engineer, and now he's lost his hands, which is the one thing you need more than anything else if you're going to be an engineer. And so there's this oh great, I guess I'm a superhero now, but at the same time I don't know what my life is anymore. Everything I've worked so hard to have, I don't have anymore. And so it's those are the kind of stories that I thought I can tell in Inhumans that are a little harder to tell in X-Men, but not impossible. I mean, you can make it work anyway. But those kind of that sort of storytelling, the sort of the way your life can change in an instant at any point in your life, which is true for sure. It doesn't matter how old or young you are. Was available immediately in Inhumans, and it really attracted me from the start.
That's cool. As we're talking, I think the announcement was either made today or yesterday. Big news about the Inhumans on the media, on the non-comic side.
Yeah.
The Marvel Television announcing an Inhumans series that is going to debut on IMAX, which, it's obviously they're taking a nod from, I think, some of the television shows that have created theater events. I mean, certainly, this weekend, as we're talking, Doctor Who is going to have they had the theater event on Monday for a special episode of a Dalek episode that they kind of uncovered, and it was an old Patrick Troughton thing that was the video was lost, but they still have the audio, so they built animation around it. I'm saying this obviously for people who aren't Doctor Who fans, but I mean certainly too, and I mean I've experienced it over the summer. When DC Animation has a new product, they kind of preview it first in theaters, and then you get the DVD a couple weeks later. They did that with The Killing Joke, and they did that with the Adam Westber Ord Return of the Cape Crusaders and stuff. So yeah, now we're hearing this about the Inhumans. I don't want you to spoil, but have you? I mean, they certainly have access to everything that is going on with the Inhumans in comics. Are you able to say? Have they looked at some of the ideas that you're exploring in your comics and stuff?
All I know is that I believe it's going to be royal family focused, which is exciting because I can't wait to see how they do Medusa, how they do Black Bolt, Gorgon, some of these great characters. But as far as whether or not they're using my concepts, I don't know. I mean, it's funny because one of my characters, one of the bad guys from my Inhumans run, Lash. Actually, two of my Inhuman characters have been in TV stuff. There's the character Lash was on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., yes. And then Inferno was on the Avengers cartoon show that's running. Oh, that's so, yeah, it's pretty sweet. But I found that out when they showed up on the show. I didn't get advance notice. They didn't tell me. I wasn't, they didn't. It just was a different group, and which is fine. I mean, that's the way it is. I don't need to be notified. They don't need to ask my permission or anything like that.
No. Yeah.
And it's always wonderful. So at this point, I have no idea if any of my storylines or any of my characters are going to be involved in the show. That would be incredibly flattering. But I also know there's been some amazing Inhuman storytelling over the years, even from the very start. Like the original concept, the Jack Kirby, Stan Lee stuff is just weird and great and super cool. So if they just go with that, that's awesome. If they want to put in guys like Frank McGee or Reader or ISO, I would be thrilled. But honestly, I'll probably find out when you find out.
Okay, hopefully I've been bugging Loeb since the end of the summer that he's due for a new talk, and certainly after the announcement today or yesterday or whatever, yeah, I'm certainly like, all right, even more to talk about. And also, it's funny, as you mentioned, the Lee Kirby Fantastic Four original Inhumans run. Loeb is always the first guy to say that's really the greatest Lee Kirby collaboration. Everything that happened during that Fantastic Four run, including Galactus, including the Inhumans, the introduction of Black Panther, all those first 100 issues, so much great stuff. And so many building blocks of the Marvel Universe from literally that specific run.
Yep, I agree completely. It's just amazing stuff, no doubt.
Okay, let's take a break and tell you more about our new sponsor, Geek Fuel. As I said before, Geek Fuel, if you don't know, is a great subscription box service that ships out a mystery box each month that has at least $50 worth of value for just $15 plus shipping and handling. In fact, November's box had a Batman theme to it. Every box has an exclusive t-shirt, a full downloadable game, and 5 to 7 other great geek culture items. For example, I got a great Firefly Serenity t-shirt. I also got a very cool cutting board for my kitchen that's great for meat or vegetables, and it's shaped like a Nintendo game cartridge. And I really appreciate that because it's a practical thing and it's also fun. So these are great for Christmas gifts, either for yourself or, think of this, you can get the subscription box from Geek Fuel, and you'd have not only holiday but also upcoming birthday gifts to share with friends for months to come. I think it's a great deal. You can start your subscription today. And if you do, and go through WordBalloon at geekfuel.com/wordballoon, you'll receive a free bonus item worth an additional $10 in your first box. And again, to do that, you go to geekfuel.com/wordballoon. It's a great deal, and honestly, I've been very impressed, and I'll be talking about some of the other items that I've gotten from Geek Fuel, but it's a great service, and I think it's a great idea. You can either sign up for 1 month, or 3 months or more. And again, to get all the deals and find out the best one that fits you, go to geekfuel.com/wordballoon. Excellent. Well, let's pivot to Daredevil, because I like the fact that Daredevil is dealing with a criminal that is, now is his name Vincent Van Gogh, or is his name?
No, his name is Muse.
Okay,
that's the name that he.
I like them both.
Yeah, I mean, Vincent Van Gogh is the name that the tabloids pick. He's a New York serial killer, and in New York, the tabloids tend to name, they name the killers or whatever. It's part of what they do.
Man. No, absolutely.
So he is
he's an artist.
He's an artist. I mean, that's right. He's a creator.
He's a psychopathic artist.
Yeah, and his sort of MO is that anything that he does in the service of his art is allowable. So whether that's mutilating people, killing them, turning them into art exhibits, turning their bodies into art exhibits, it's all fine because it's in the service of art. And I think that it's this is a very obvious metaphor. It's nothing that's too deeply hidden, but I think a lot of creators, myself included, will do things. Hopefully not to that extreme, although I think some have. You look at your Ed Gein and Ted Bundy, and a lot of these people have actually created art out of their victims. But there is a sense of, I can do what I need to do, whether it's, spending time away from my family or, just locking myself in a room for hours on end, and days on end to create whatever I need to create. All of that is something that happens with artists. And so this is that idea taken to the extreme.
Sure.
And Muse tends to spout these kind of artsy platitudes about, the power of the creator and all these things, which I just thought it made me laugh in a way, but it's also horrifying because these are things that people believe and they act based on it. And I also think, Daredevil, if there's another, Daredevil is the perfect character to my mind to face a serial killer.
I completely agree. Go on.
Because Daredevil himself is super dark. He is just as driven and weird. Thankfully, he channels his obsessions into justice and good. But in a lot of ways, there's not a lot separating him from a serial killer character. Just like there's not that much separating, say, Batman from the Joker. Really, but it's just how they, No,
go on. No, finish your thought. I don't mean to interrupt. Go on.
So it's the idea that Daredevil is facing somebody who is just as driven as he is in his own way. And who has a very strong motivation that you can kind of identify with. It's horrible the way that Muse is executing it, but you no pun intended, but you can sort of see where he's coming from. Like, he wants an audience. He wants his work to be appreciated. He wants people to understand him. But he also doesn't want to explain anything, because if you explain it, then it's like, it's too much. And I don't know.
It's like a magic trick or what. And also, like, I love the conversations that you're writing with Muse and Daredevil, because it's like, don't tell me how to do my art. I mean, give me a break. I'm just doing my thing. And also, I love, in a different way than Batman, it's almost like Daredevil doesn't see the darkness in himself, because he is so driven to do the right thing and doesn't care how he gets to it, and he's aware of his psychoses, but it always does seem to me, like you said, I mean, he's staring this guy in his face, and I don't know, maybe I haven't read the right issues where Matt does kind of say, oh my God, I can see a lot of myself in what this guy's doing, but it is like, he doesn't really, like I said, it just seems like his moral code is blinding him, no pun intended, from his own psychoses.
No, 1,000%. And there's an issue early that's one of the central themes of the run. You nailed it. And there's an issue in issue 4 of my run. And I got to say, Ron Garney and Matt Mia, who are the gorgeous, artists in color. Oh my God. I'm so lucky to have them. And Gordon Suzuka, who is kind of the guy who usually takes a couple issues to let Ron kind of, get ahead to make sure that he can stay on. I'm so lucky. Like, this book, the feel of it is so distinct and dead on for what Daredevil needs to be, but it's also so distinct from what Mark Waid and Chris Samnee and Paulo Rivera did, which was incredible.
Completely agree.
But it's the art on Daredevil has been, through almost the entire run, it's always been an artist showcase. Between Believe and all of the incredible people who've drawn Daredevil over the years, Mazzucchelli, Frank Miller, all these people, and now Ron Garney and Gordon Suzuka. So it's awesome, and I can't talk about the run on the book without talking about them. So they're amazing. But in issue 4 of the run that I'm doing now, Daredevil has a kind of it's sort of a team up with Captain America, and at that point, Cap was aged. He was like 90 years old. Sure. His super serum had temporarily worn off, and so he has a conversation with Daredevil at the end. And at this point in Daredevil continuity, Matt Murdock has put his secret identity back in the bottle, so nobody knows that Daredevil is Murdock, and nobody knows that Daredevil is blind either. And so Cap is giving advice in his sort of elder statesman way. Yeah. And he says, look, man, all you need to do is look in the mirror. And if you can't see, if you can't meet the eyes of the guy looking back at you, then you're doing something wrong. But if you can look yourself in the eye, then you're in great shape. And Daredevil's listening to this, and of course Daredevil can never see his reflection.
Yeah. And so it's great advice, but for Daredevil it's the worst advice, because he can't actually do it. So so I'm trying to play a lot with the idea of Daredevil's blindness, both on a physical sort of storytelling standpoint, like the things that he's not capable of doing. Like in that same issue, there's a bit where Cap, he's defusing a bomb, and Cap is like, cut the green wire. And Daredevil's like because he can't see green, right? He has no idea what green looks like. Sure. So it's you can do a lot of fun things with that, just that Daredevil's blind, and the fact that people don't know he's blind. But there's also all the great thematic things you can do with it about his blindness to his own failings and his own obsessions, and how they affect the people around him, and the choices that he makes in pursuit of the goal. There's a larger goal that he's trying to achieve in my run, which has not quite yet been revealed. It'll be revealed in about, I don't know, 5 or 6 issues. Okay. And we'll see that everything he's done, from getting his secret identity back, moving back to New York, become a DA, abandoning Kirsten McDuffie, who is his awesome girlfriend in Mark Waid's run. Yes. All of those things were part of a larger idea that he is now pursuing to the point of obsession, and it doesn't necessarily end well.
It's not good for him, but he's doing it for his city. He feels like it's important, and once he's on the road, once he's given everything up, if he stops, then he's done it for nothing. So he can't stop, and he's got to push it until the end. And then, I don't know. I know where the whole Daredevil story is going, far into issue 30 or so, or past it. Okay. And it's I'm really
17,
happy with it.
Am I right? 13 right now is the current issue.
Yep, 13 just came out. So, this will take it to issue 30. The plan that I have now, the plan that's been like sort of ratified and approved, and I actually had a big call with Marvel about it today, like with a bunch of writers. There's a whole big, like, Daredevil is becoming kind of its own zone in Marvel. So there's Good. So there's Elektra, Bullseye, Kingpin. All these characters are becoming part of it, and so it's all building to this big, huge thing that'll happen in about a year that I'm really excited about. So,
Charles, honestly, because so many great writers in the last 15 years, in particular, have really, well, I guess, or maybe the last 10 or 12 years, starting with Bendis, Brubaker, Wade. A lot of these guys have found different ways to crack Daredevil and give us something new to think about. And I think your run is another example of that. And also the fact that you do have this kind of long run with a very specific idea in mind. This is the kind of stuff that Jason was able to do with The Punisher and with Ghost Rider. And, Brian was, like I said, able to do it with Daredevil. Brubaker took him in a different direction. Wade did. So, honestly, it's tough. And, I have to admit, psychologically, the costume choice to change to that more, and again, is that just, I don't know if that's a shadow perception or he did literally change his costume to the color scheme that it is right now. But at first, it gave me that 90s twinge of, oh, fuck, when Daredevil's costume went gray, it really went to shit. That's not happening. Please don't. And I had faith in you, man, because I'm like, Charles is a lawyer. He knows Matt Murdock. I think it's going to be all right. And sure enough, it was. And that's why it's like, man, this is great. Because, again, I really think when Daredevil is good and also left on his own, and that's why I got excited when you said that it's becoming its own little zone and stuff like that. So many big things were happening around the great runs of Daredevil. And luckily, editorial was like, yeah, let's let Daredevil kind of be its own thing. And I really do think that's when Daredevil is his best, is when, that's really when the character came into focus. I think even, going back to Mackenzie and Miller, when they really kind of revitalized the character and really made it the distinct hero that he is and everything, and the environment. And I think, again, that's why the Netflix show works as well as it does. It's going to be interesting to see when the Defenders really start to open up. Yeah, and we're getting kind of tastes of it in Luke Cage and certainly Jessica Jones, and we'll see what happens with Iron Fist. I'm sure we'll see a few more cameos and things will be pulling together. But this is great, man, honestly, and I did really grab several of your most recent issues, and it's like, oh, that's good. Okay, here we go. Daredevil's back. It's good. So that's great, man. Nice going.
Thank you very much. The legacy on that book is very intimidating, but I'm just trying to do it my way, and hopefully people respond to it and make the storytelling choices that I think are right. But I love writing Daredevil. It's really a dream superhero comics job for me in particular, and so I'm, the response has been great, and I'm on it for a while to come. So unless people really start to hate it, I'll get to do one of those kind of longer runs that you were mentioning. So it's kind of an amazing thing. I feel really lucky about it.
And I'm looking in the inside to see who your editor was. I was expecting Breefort, but it's Panacea.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Well, Mark is another guy. Man, I really got to get him on because he is a guy who, again, there are certain editors that I think have really exceptional taste and kind of get it when it comes to like, no, this is the right guy for this kind of story, or here's the pitch. I mean, I'm assuming, did you pitch this to Panacea?
Well, when I came on the book, it was something that when I first started working at Marvel and I did the run on She-Hulk, which was very well received, thankfully.
Absolutely.
Axel, even back then, Axel was like, you know what? Someday Daredevil's going to open again, and if the stars align, I think you do a great job. We'll see what happens.
Cool.
And that was right in the heart of Mark Waid's run. So I'm like, well, you know what? I'm not holding my breath. That's gonna, who knows? And then Mark said he was going to step away, and I got a call from Axel fairly soon after that. He's like, do you want this job? And I said, of course I want this job. I think I can do something special on it. And so I kind of had a long runway, which was pleasant. I really got to think it through, and I would say I had 6 to 8 months to kind of think about what I was going to do on the book. And so as far as the plan, it started in one place, and then as I would say after the first 4 or 5 issues, I had this brainstorm about. I sort of had big plan A, and then big plan A became just the start of the real big plan on the book, which is kind of the nice thing about writing these books is as you get to know the characters, sort of ideas occur to you that wouldn't have occurred otherwise.
Sure.
And so that was what I laid out to Mark and to Axel, and it was like, wow, this could be really something special. And so, who knows? I have to write it still, so it might not be this in my head. It's the best Daredevil story of all time, but we'll see what happens when I actually put pen to paper. But
I think your instincts about the character are right on. And again, it's because same thing can be said about Batman. I mean, you can really some of these characters. It's like and especially after an average run, it's like, well, what else is there to say about Daredevil? I mean, you can kind of peel the onion and say, well, Bendis was kind of doing, and he admits it himself. I missed Frank Miller's Daredevil, and that influenced what I did with the character. And then Brubaker comes, and it's like, yeah, but let's take this short, left turn. And then, you get the extreme 180 of Wade going, hey, Daredevil hasn't been fun forever, and it can be fun and interesting, and also he's still nuts. And so you get Wade's run. And then again, you found a different wrinkle of Daredevil crazy, and I think that's fantastic. Or at least Daredevil driven, or
obsessed. I'd say obsessed.
Yeah, obsessed, and also not recognizing some of the traits within himself. Which again, it's the characters are their most interesting when you crack the code of what makes them their weakest.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Yeah, no, every character is only as strong as their greatest weakness. Which
right. I mean, we're seeing that with Jason's doing it right now with Thor. As I always like to say, because I feel like a nerd, the Odin son. I mean, but it's true. It's like, what does it mean to be Thor when he's not Thor anymore? What's left?
Yep.
Who is he?
Yep.
So no, good job, man. Very, very cool, and I am willing to be on the ride. So
awesome.
Really, thanks, John. Gee.
No, I appreciate it. I know what you mean. And Daredevil's a character who's he's very polarizing. People are like, if you're not doing what you should be doing, everybody thinks you're a jerk and you're an idiot and you've ruined the best character around. So I totally understand the tentative. I'll try it out. I'll be on the ride for a while, but if you screw it up, Charles, I'm done. So
it's true. Well, you drop the book when, and it really sometimes, man, it's great writers who, for whatever reason, their interpretation of the character just doesn't work for the general audience. And I'm assuming that has happened because we've seen the book change hands.
Yeah.
Sometimes the guy is just purely, all right, that's all I got to say about it. It's time to change. And then there's other times where it's like, okay, wow, this guy's on. Oh, well, I don't like that. What the hell is that? That's not Daredevil.
Yeah.
Or at least it's not the Daredevil I want to read. But no, nice going, man. That's excellent. All right, well now, am I right? Or is Poe Dameron the only thing we got left to chat about?
Yeah, I think that's the only mainstream thing that we haven't talked about, which is crazy.
So yeah, tell me about that, man. I mean, really, here's a character that nobody knew about until literally a year ago, and immediately becomes this, like, for his brief scenes in The Force Awakens. I don't even know. Have you even counted how much screen time he has in Episode 7?
It's almost none. I mean, I would say it's less than 15 minutes probably. But it's, he made a hell of an impression, as Oscar Isaac tends to do. Like, he's a really good actor.
Yeah.
Who really finds the characters that he's asked to play and makes them indelible and sort of unforgettable. And Poe Dameron was absolutely that. So, it's been an amazing ride on that book. It's my third Star Wars project. I did the Lando book first, and then I did an Obi-Wan and Anakin book.
Yes, very cool, man. Go on.
Yeah, which were fun, but then Poe Dameron's been its own. I mean, it's an ongoing series, which is different. The first two were miniseries, so this is an ongoing.
Right.
And it's the only one set in this new continuity of Episode 7. So there's a lot of challenges to it because there's a lot of areas that I can't really touch as a storyteller because I don't know where the story is going to go in Episodes 8 and 9.
Sure.
But Lucasfilm is great about guiding me without spoiling stuff because I'm sort of, there's things they can't tell me either. Like, they know things that I can't know at this point.
Of course.
So it's like I'll pitch an idea and they'll be like, well, maybe stay away from that. And so I'll stay away from it and I'll find another way. So it's been it's one of those, like the great story about Jaws, making of Jaws, Steven Spielberg, was that the shark didn't work very well. They had this mechanical shark and just kept breaking. And so they had to shoot around it. They had to find ways to tell the story without showing the shark very much. And I think writing Poe Dameron in some ways is like that, because there's a bunch of things that I can't really do. And so I write around them and I find ways to tell the story that still work. And it's been fun for me as a writer to figure that out. It's like a nice puzzle. But it also lets me dive into interesting things that I might not have done otherwise. Like the villain character in the book is this guy Terex, who's entirely new. I made him up, and I can do a lot with his backstory and things like that because he's not a character from the films. So I can kind of do whatever I want with him. So it's been interesting, and mostly I'm just glad people like it, because I think Poe Dameron's voice in Force Awakens was so specific and so charming and so winning that getting that right was really if I got that right, then the book would work. And it seems like I'm going to write issue 12 this weekend, so apparently it's working out pretty well.
It's funny. Literally 10 years ago, I had this conversation with Walt Simonson going back to his run on Star Wars, and he faced the same problems because clearly, things were in play for Empire Strikes Back during his run that, he had no idea, and, suddenly it was like, oh, by the way, Luke and Darth can't meet. And he literally found himself at the end of an issue where they were about to face each other. And it's like, all right, great, he's a hologram. And it's like, fine, okay, great, you solved it, nice going. So, no, I can appreciate that. I wonder, too, have you had the opportunity, because certainly Dark Horse had the license for so long, and a lot of times they got to go further into the future, further into the past with a lot of their runs, but have you had a chance to talk to anybody to compare, how it goes to work with Lucas and everything in terms of what you can and can't do?
You mean from people who wrote for Dark Horse and like in those days? Yeah. A little bit. I know some people who worked, other writers who worked during those days, and it sounds like it was fairly similar. Some of it was like they just weren't playing in some of the same timelines,
right?
But whenever they were working within a book that was going to hit, say, the prequel timelines when the Clone Wars shows was being produced, they had to be very careful about it, and it's always just. And I know that Yoda's always been something that they've been very cautious about, because Yoda is George Lucas's baby in a real way, and so whenever you write scenes with Yoda, you have to be extreme. They're vetted to a really, really heavy degree.
Interesting.
And I'll tell you, writing Yoda's dialogue, you'd think it's kind of easy, like you kind of know what Yoda sounds like. It is not that easy to write it and make it sound right. So, but
do you get corrections from them?
I am very proud to say that I did not get corrections. I wrote it about 7 times, and they did not. That scene anyway, they didn't have any issues with. But certainly other stuff, like you turn in the script and they'll be like, well, at this time on the timeline, they weren't flying this type of X-wing; it was this type, or just great. But I consider that stuff great because I'm a very well versed Star Wars fan. Like I know a lot about it, but I'm not one of there's like the holocron, the Jedi holocron, which is this huge database they have at Lucasfilm that kind of has every information about every character, and I don't have that, so so I'm happy to have them. They're awesome. The Lucasfilm Story Group, generally speaking, is amazing, and they've been very, very helpful. So I love working with them. I love working on Star Wars projects, and I hope I get to do many more in the future.
Tell me about using Yoda then. So contextually, are these flashback scenes obviously that
Yeah, the one time I used him was at the end of the Obi-Wan and Anakin series. There's a
okay, sure. I thought it might be a post series, but go ahead.
No. It was an Obi-Wan and Anakin. There's a bit where and that's set during the prequels. So Yoda's around, the Jedi Temple's around, all that.
Sure.
And so basically Obi-Wan just goes to the Jedi Temple and he has a conversation like he has misgivings about Anakin and what's going to happen, and Yoda gives him some sage Yoda advice, and Obi-Wan's like, right on, I'm going to go do it. So, it's the most cliched, typical Yoda scene ever, but it was still really cool to write it.
That's cool. Did you get to write Mace Windu?
I have written a tiny bit of Mace Windu. I've written a bunch of Palpatine, which has been fantastic.
Nice. Lovely.
The only real big characters I haven't written are Han, Chewbacca, and Luke. I think I've written pretty much everybody else. So, And who knows? Maybe I get to write them at some point in the future. But I'm still even getting to say the characters I have written is pretty amazing. So
absolutely,
yeah. I mean, I get asked. I do every once in a while. I'll do like a Twitter Q&A or something, and one of the questions that inevitably comes up is, "What character would you like to write?" And I always find it very hard to answer because I've been so lucky that I've gotten to write pretty much every possible character you could ever want as a superhero or a big pop culture comics writer. So I've been very lucky, no doubt about it.
Well, catch us up on what's going on with Poe then.
Sure. So Poe, the series is set just before Force Awakens. So we're building up to that scene that opened the movie with Poe on the planet Jakku, meeting Lor San Tekka, that old Force explorer guy, yes. And getting that
Max von Sydow.
Yeah, of course, and getting that data chip that had the location or half of the location of Luke Skywalker.
Sure.
So the idea is that at this time, the First Order has not yet kind of openly declared hostilities against the galaxy, and so the Resistance has to kind of fight them on the. It's like a Cold War almost. They could do these like sort of covert operations and Mission Impossible type spy things, but they can't actually go try and blow up a base or a spaceship. So Poe has his own squadron, Black Squadron, which is composed of him and 4 other pilots who are all very skilled, and they go and have these super cool kick-ass adventures across the galaxy. And the main thrust of it has been that Leia, General Leia Organa knows that her best chance of finding her brother, finding Luke, is if they can find Lor San Tekka and get some information from him. Okay. And so she kind of knows vaguely, wavy where Lor San Tekka was once. So the idea is go to that place, see if you can kind of trace him through the galaxy and find him and catch up with him and ask him where Luke might be. And so that's the main kind of MacGuffin storyline that runs as the spine of the book.
Yeah.
Is trying to find Lor San Tekka, but it's ultimately just kick-ass X-Wing battles and sure. First Order kind of skullduggery and lots of neat BB-8s all over it, who's super fun to write. Yeah, it's been very, very fun. There's a big C-3PO 3-parter that's going on now, where it turns out that C-3PO is sort of like the spy master for the Resistance, because he uses droids all over the galaxy, because nobody pays attention to droids, right? So he's got droid spies all over the galaxy, and he's kind of collecting all their information and collating it for the Resistance. So there's a big story arc now. Yeah, it's a fun it's a role for him that is apparently that's supposed to sort of be canon, and it was even sort of hinted at in The Force Awakens, but not in a big way. So I get to hit it a little harder, which is fun, and just I don't know, these are, of all the toys in the toy box, these are pretty great toys to play with for sure.
Hell yeah, man! No, that sounds terrific. That's really great because again, I mean, you're kind of strapped down in terms of you got to work in this little area before 7. So how do you make it interesting? It's again, and it's what we always have to remind people. It's not the destination; it's the journey.
Yes,
and obviously that's what you get to explore is reaching that Max von Sydow point at the beginning of the film.
Yep.
So that and have all these complications along the way. So that's cool. Will the book, are you on it for the foreseeable future? Are you? Is okay. Yep. Will there come a time that when Episode 8 comes out that you'll be able to kind of fill in the gap between Force Awakens and Episode 8?
Well, that's a ways in the future yet, sure. So we'll see. Okay. But right now, I mean, I have the big overarching story which fills in, all those gaps leading up to Episode 7. Like you're going to kind of know what Poe was up to all that time, and it's very cool to be able to tell that story. Because it's it's great. Working with Phil Noto, who's incredible, is the artist on the book.
Oh yeah, no, I love Phil. Phil is great, man. Honestly, there's a guy what a great distinct style that really fits pretty much every sort of book and every sort of genre.
Yeah, no, he's amazing. And so we're on it for a while. There's a lot of cool stuff coming. As far as whether we go past Episode 7, I guess you'll just kind of have to wait and see. And I know that's sort of marketing speak and all that, but. But it's good stuff. There's good stuff coming up for sure.
That's excellent, man. Very, very cool. Look at you, Charles. I'm very happy for you. No, seriously, man, that's great. And also, I noticed too that Am I right? Strange Attractions is being re-released, or did they finish?
Yeah, it was. It was re-released as singles this summer, and then it's coming out as a trade, I think, in next June or July. So yeah, that was awesome. They basically came to me and said, look, because Strange Attractors originally came out as a book from a hardcover graphic novel from Archaea back in 2012.
Yep.
And I was very, very proud of it. But the truth is, a handful of people knew who I was at that point. I hadn't started doing any big 2 work. I just, my name was not what it is now. And so Boom Studios bought Archaea in, I don't know, a couple years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. And they, I guess, were looking through their library, and they came to me and they said, look, Charles, we think that if we put this out now, we could do very well with it, because people are going to see it as maybe a new project from you or whatever.
Right. Or exactly. No, go on.
It's just you have another level of audience.
Yes.
Is kind of how they put it. Which I and from where I'm sitting as a writer with a book that came out some years ago that I'm still very proud of. Greg Scott and Art Lyon were the artists on it. They did amazing work. Robert Saywitz, just a great team. It's a great book. And the idea that I could get it out in front of a new set of eyeballs, it was kind of a no-brainer for me. So we put it out this summer. I wrote a new backup story for it, which is basically another, a 6. So the main story is basically 5 issues. And then when you add up all of the backups that I wrote for it, it's kind of like a 6th issue that works almost as a coda or sort of a second look at the material in the original story. And that was drawn by the Soule, who is very cool. She's another New York artist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was great. And the idea that we could get it out there again and let new people look at it was very, like I said, it was a no-brainer. I think as a writer, your back catalog, the idea that work start to disappear is very... It's strange. You think that these things are going to last forever, but at a certain point, the publishers are like, well, we've made the money we're going to make, so we're not going to keep reprinting it. But Strange Attractors, fortunately, they put out again. So it's cool. I mean, if people haven't checked it out, it's on Comixology. It's also, again, the trade will be coming out in July, so that's a good one for sure.
I've always been an Archaea fan, and Steve Christie ran a great company, and I'm really glad that Boom bought them, and it gave them the opportunity to re-release some really interesting projects. The Joiners in 3D was another, and now in 2D with R.J. Ryan and Dave Marquez. And no, that's the great thing. And honestly, the same thing happened to Bendis, the same thing happened to Remender, Rucka, Brubaker. When you guys kind of hit, now all of a sudden, it's a chance to really do look back at some of your earlier works, and again, like you said, attract the current audience that you've gathered with your mainstream stuff. And it's like, oh no, you like Charles Soule? Well, check out Strange Attractors and everything. I think that's fantastic. And yeah, I was really happy to see it back in print this summer. And like I said, I just wasn't sure if it had finished its run or not. So again, from Boom and Archaea, Strange Attractors, and like Charles said, he told you how to find it. And the cool thing is, new trade coming in July. Very, very good. Excellent, man. Look at you.
Well, yeah. It's it's kind of mind blowing. I still can't believe the I said before in this call, that 5,000 pages thing. I couldn't believe it. I mean, that's a lot of work. And I look back in it, and I know that I wrote it. I look at I'm in my office right now. I'm looking at my shelf of my work. And there was a point where I wanted to have a small shelf, a little bit of my stuff. And now I'm looking at foreign editions. I'm looking at stuff in French and Spanish. I'm looking at all these collections, and it's really something. I feel very lucky. I feel very fortunate that people like my work to the degree that they seem to like it. It's an amazing thing. I'm very it's a good deal.
Well deserved, man. No, you're putting out great work, and I'm glad that the audience is responding the way that it is. What do you have your convention plans for either late this year or early part of next year kind of laid out? Yeah,
that is actually an interesting question, because I tend to overschedule myself to a really significant degree. I've done, certainly double digits worth of shows in 2016. And some of those have been, I just got back from China. I was in New Zealand in April. I was in France in January. And so they're not even all domestic shows. I'd go internationally, and I I love doing it, and I'm sure that I will do shows in 2017. But I just at this point, like I've got a guy who handles my show bookings, and he's like, "Man, we really got to get started on 2017." But at this point, I'm waiting. There will be a day probably after Thanksgiving when all that's done, when I'm just like, all right, I got to step into this and get it sorted out. But right now, the only shows that I've booked for 2017 are I'm doing this fantasy cruise in January, which is it's a cruise. It goes from Tampa to Cozumel to Key West and back to Tampa.
Wow!
And it sounds kind of amazing. It's me and Scott Snyder, who's a close friend, so that'll be great. Mark Waid is going. Frank Miller, Jerry Duggan, Riley Brown, Gail Simone, and I'm spacing people already. But there's a lot of really significant comics people going on this cruise, as well as a bunch of pop culture guests, like the kids from Stranger Things are going to go, and Walking Dead people, and so on. Yeah, so we're going to be on this cruise ship for 4 days. With, I guess, 2,000 fans, and it's going to be interesting because it's like a convention for 4 days, and we'll see what happens. It's going to be kind of wild. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I've seen that advertised, on Facebook and everything, and on Twitter. Go on, yeah, please.
Yeah, so I'm doing that, and then I booked Emerald City, in Seattle. Yep.
Excellent.
So right now that's it. But I know that Ryan Browne and I have talked a lot about doing kind of a promotional tour for curse words, like going to some shows in the spring when the book launches in January. But the other thing we're talking about doing, which I think is going to be a blast, is the book's about wizards, right?
Yes.
And the thing that we're thinking we're going to do when the hardcover hits in July, trade and hardcover, is do a store tour, and we're gonna buy a van, and we're gonna paint it, like airbrush it, like 1970s kind of airbrush with wizard and stuff on it.
Sure.
And then we're going to drive around the country in that van together for 2 or 3 weeks, whatever it takes to get to all the stores and do signings and do a little tour.
Hilarious.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, my concern is that after spending 3 weeks in a van with Ryan, no matter how much we like each other now, it might all fall apart. That might be the end of the book. Yes, exactly. But it sounds really fun. Like, I mean, doesn't it sound like a good time? Like going around, driving around in a van with one of your closest friends. And
I can only speak for the 40 minutes that Ryan and I spent from the airport to our respective apartments in Chicago. But it was a very pleasant 40 minutes.
Okay.
So if that's any help.
All right. Well, multiply that by 1,000 hours, and we'll see. But. Yeah, we were
you guys are good guys. I think you could handle it. I think it's going to be great.
I hope so. We were at New York Comic Con. We were hanging out because we did a wizard party there at the Image Party. We had whatever, like my band played and stuff. We did all this wizard stuff just to kind of get the word out early. But we were driving around the city trying to park in New York, which is always impossible.
Jesus Christ, yeah.
And we're talking about what are we going to do on this ride? Like, are we going to get what kind of music do you like? And sort of the most basic questions to make sure that we're not completely incompatible for a 3-week road trip. But as far as we could tell, all signals were go, and we're going to start. Actually, I think we're going to start getting in touch with shops next month to sort of say, to sort of line up the tour and see where we're going, and see who wants us in. So I'm really looking forward to that. I think it's going to be great. I think the book is going to be a blast. And I really, like I said at the very start of this conversation, I'm just so excited to have a new creator and project out and be saying new things with my voice and Ryan's voice that are just completely ours. And it's just a great time.
Excellent, man. No, that sounds great. And like I said, when you're ready to promote the novel, please come back. And really, if you got a new something new, because really the laundry list that we went through tonight, I think shows the strength of your storytelling, and all of my reactions are genuine because they sound great. Again, things that I don't normally read. I really like what I'm hearing about the Inhumans and Poe Dameron and some of these other things. So, and like I said, you already had me with Daredevil. So keep up the good work, man. Nice going, and really looking forward to what is to come in 2017 from Charles Soule. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me on, John, and hopefully I'll talk to you again soon.
Lots of fun talking to Charles Soule, and I do promise that he will be back in 2017. Really excited for Curse Words coming up from Ryan Browne. Boy, that sounds terrible, doesn't it? But it's true. And everything else he's doing, it sounds like a lot of fun. And looking forward to that novel when it comes out, too. Charles Soule on today's Word Balloon. Hope you enjoyed it. It was brought to you by Geek Fuel. And once again, Geek Fuel is a great subscription box service that ships out a mystery box every month that has at least $50 worth of value from 5 to 7 Greek geek culture items. The box is usually around $15 plus shipping and handling, but there are different ways to get Geek Fuel. If you just want to get a one-time box, or if you want to get a year's subscription, it can be as under $14. For all the details, you can start your subscription, and if you go through geekfuel.com/wordballoon, you'll also receive a free bonus item worth an additional $10 in your first box. That's geekfuel.com/wordballoon. WORDBALLOON. Thanks again for listening to today's Word Balloon. Questions or comments about the show, you can reach me via email, john@wordballoon.com. And until the next show, we've got great stuff coming up for the rest of November. This is the holiday week. It's Thanksgiving, and as I always say around Thanksgiving, it's my favorite holiday because it had a horrible beginning, but it has evolved into, I think, such a great non-religious holiday that everyone can enjoy and appreciate, and you're with your family and your friends, and it's a chance to truly thank them for being part of your life. And as always, I try to do the same thing and say thank you for making Word Balloon part of your life. Thank you very much for your attention and time, and I hope you enjoy these conversations. I'm going to keep on doing them. It's been a great 11 years, and the role continues. Join me on this journey. Until next time, Word Balloon is a copyright feature of Shaky Productions, copyright 2016. Happy Thanksgiving.